All right. Welcome, 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 everyone. Once again to another session of The Doctors Are In. This program is brought to you by It Takes a Village Ministry in partnership with Health Revival Partners and Sankofa Healing Enrichment. We want to thank you once again for joining us, and we are here to serve you. I want you to please keep in mind that we are not doing this as no intention to treat or diagnose or cure. This is only for educational purposes, and we encourage you to discuss everything and anything with your personal healthcare provider. With that, I'm going to open up the floor for anyone who is with us in person because we always prioritize those who have made it a point to be with us here in person. So either you can unmute yourself or you can put your question into the chat and we will answer those particular questions first. Okay. No one in the chat? All right. So we're going to go ahead to a question that was sent in to us. We have a young lady. She is 23 years old, and she said that she has recently noticed that she is experiencing pulsing in her eye, and it goes in and out, and she's just curious as to what that could be and what she should probably look into doing. So I'm going to throw that ball to you first, Dr. Carter. You're the eye expert.
So she's experiencing what though?
She says her eyes are like pulsing. It's like all
Pulsing.
of a sudden they start pulsing and it goes in and out, you know, at different times.
Hmm. Well, definitely she needs to go see an ophthalmologist to obviously get pressures checked to rule out glaucoma. Generally speaking, you really never have any symptoms with the pressures increasing in the eye. It's pretty rare. However, that's actually how I found out that I had glaucoma because
Wow.
it was like a migraine headache actually located in my eye.
Huh.
This is 30 some years ago. So, and my
Oh, so
pressures were
you were
probably
very
like,
young.
yeah, they were probably like 50, the pressures, intraocular pressures. So a pulsing, that's obviously a strange sensation, but that definitely needs to be checked out.
So you mean even at that young age of 23, you could be starting to develop glaucoma and
Oh,
having
absolutely.
the pressure up?
Oh,
Wow.
absolutely.
Huh.
And there's several types of glaucoma. The open angle is the most prevalent, and that's the
Mm.
one that, let's say, responds best to, for whatever it's worth, to the eye drops that lower pressure by different mechanisms, and then the surgeries that also lower pressure. But normal tensive glaucoma is quite challenging. Well, all of them are quite challenging, but that's even more challenging because there is no real surgery or medication to address the pressure because the pressure is normal. That's why it's
Mm.
called normal tension glaucoma. So at the end of the day, it is due to, just an inflammatory process that's fed by, the multiple factors, food sensitivities, subacute infections, mold, mycotoxins, all of these different things that can drive inflammation that ultimately takes its toll on the eyes. So, no.
So those are the things that would influence the pressure in the eyes.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So, that's why I ultimately got into functional medicine so I could find out the root causes. So for me, definitely food sensitivities was at the top of the list, gluten and dairy. Adrenal dysfunction, stage 3 adrenal dysfunction played a role. mold and mycotoxins, being sensitive to that, definitely. And of course, I also had some of the subacute infections like mycoplasma, chlamydia pneumoniae, Epstein-Barr virus, Lyme, all of those different things. And didn't really have any heavy metals, as I recall, but certainly mercury, aluminum, lead, all of those different things can certainly push that along. And then the blood biomarkers that show the inflammation, having high CRP and high sensitivity C-reactive protein and ferritin and fibrinogen and sed-rate and all of these different things. So, yep, I experienced pretty much all of those above.
It's fascinating to me when I talk to people and I tell them that I would say 80 to 90% of what we deal with in the realm of healthcare drill down to the same foundational pillars, you know. So looking at what Dr. Lewis loves to refer to as chronic stealth infections,
Right.
looking at food sensitivities, and food sensitivities lead to looking at the gut, looking at whether or not there has been permeability of the gut lining that has led to food sensitivity, looking at the adrenals, because the first thing that came to me when I read this particular concern from this young lady was, I wonder if she's going through any kind of stressors in her life at this point in time,
Right.
because as that's when you're stressed, it just starts to and sometimes that is one of the ways for people to really start to reflect on whether or not they are experiencing stress and may not even be consciously aware of it, because
Absolutely.
it's kind of faded into the background as the white noise, and we have bumped up our threshold and not really learned how to slow down and pay attention and become aware. And as you said, all of these other things are stressors to the body. Chronic infections are stressors to the body. And so it makes sense that it can also show up in the eye. Who would have thunk?
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, traditional ophthalmologists know nothing about this. Absolutely nothing. It's pretty sad actually. Because had I known, what I know now, going backwards and even really kind of delving into this alternative world way back then, I would be far better off. I'm sure. I'm positive of that. So the earlier you catch things like this, the better, and address that inflammation, because of course, all the inflammation leads to all other type of disease manifestations as well.
So for me to recap what you're saying, you're suggesting that this young lady goes in to see the eye doctor to get the pressure in her eyes checked, and additionally to go to her primary care provider, I guess, to get a comprehensive blood panel done.
Yeah, but they're not gonna do they're not gonna do the labs that we do though.
I know, I'm trying to be optimistic, but I keep, because to me it is just insane that healthcare considers dental care and eye care to be out of the scope of healthcare. So usually when you look at your health insurance, you have to get additional coverage for your eyes and additional coverage for your mouth, and it's like, they're part of your body. How can you not perceive the reality that everything is interconnected? Like the eyeballs are out floating by themselves, and your teeth are floating by themselves, and they don't talk to the body, and the body doesn't talk to them. And so, it's insane. But if you can get to a functional practitioner and get that wonderful comprehensive panel done that looks not only at your CBC, your white blood cells, and with the differentials, but also looking at your inflammatory markers like the HSCRP, the homocysteine, the ferritin. I know I'm missing something.
Uric acid, sed-rate.
uric acid, cedrate,
Fibrinogen.
fibrinogen, all of these are inflammatory markers that would give you some idea as to whether or not there is a chronic infection or even inflammation in the gut. That will come up also with your globulin markers and things of that nature. So to really, if you go to your eye doctor and it's not as simple as the pressure in your, well, here I am saying simple glaucoma. Nobody wants glaucoma at 23.
Right.
But if it's not that, and even if it is, what you're saying, Dr. Carter, is to now drill down into what is creating
Right.
that pressure in the eyes and what is creating the glaucoma
Absolutely.
that may be applicable in this situation.
Correct.
So lots to take into consideration. All righty, Carla, do we have any other questions yet?
Yes, I actually, Dr. M and Dr. Carter, I put a question for a young lady. I invited her to come on because she has a thyroid, and I believe I had mentioned it to you, Dr. Michelle. So it was like at first it was not visible. Now it is visible, and she's lost a lot of weight. Right, the goiter. Thank you. And she's lost a lot of weight. I know she is a very strong young woman in the movement. She's very passionate, with her activism, and I don't know if maybe all the stress. So I just wanted to know what causes that, what caused it to go from flat to inflamed, and what does she need to do to improve her health? Thanks.
Perfect. Awesome. All righty, Dr. Carter, I'm going to throw it to you at first.
Oh, well, I mean, that's signifying low iodine levels. So, those thyroid cells swell up, in an attempt to kind of right itself from, the function of the thyroid. So, and that's actually why, let's say the Morton's iodized salt came into being because people just weren't getting iodine in their diets and so forth. And of course, with them, let's say people who are on low salt diets, so they're missing even that tiny bit. And not to say that Morton salt is a salt that should be consuming anyway, but if you're not getting iodine from seafood sources and so forth, then you're robbing your body of a critical nutrient and so forth. So and then, of course, eating the standard American diet, the bread has bromine in it. So that's also going to cause disruption of thyroid function. If you're using fluoride toothpaste, that's another problem that can also lead to hypothyroidism and dysfunction of the thyroid. So yeah, really looking at the very least the full thyroid panel with iodine levels will be a great start with that.
Yeah, absolutely. So looking at your thyroid panel, and if possible, also getting your thyroid antibodies, because sometimes when we see those goiters, it's not simply a thyroid issue, it's that the body has shifted into an autoimmune kind of condition where the body is now attacking the thyroid, and so the thyroid is like, oh my God, and he's just the guy who is in a bad position, bad time, bad place. And so a lot of times when people are looking simply at the thyroid panel and they see those numbers shift, in one panel it'll look like hypothyroid, another panel look like hyperthyroid, and it goes back and forth. And again, like I said, a lot of times when I see people with goiters, what it has actually a reflection of is an autoimmune condition. So you definitely want to look at that part of it in terms of making sure you rule out the possibility of it actually being an immune dysregulation issue as opposed to simply a quote unquote thyroid issue.
Yep.
Thank you.
Awesome sauce. And then, like Dr. Carter said, to make sure that you are also looking at your mineral intake, whether or not you're getting sufficient iodine in the form of wonderful sea vegetables like your kelp, your dulse, your nori, your wakame, all of those wonderful sea vegetables, and then your sea salt. And then another part of it may be a dysregulation in your digestive system, because sometimes people are consuming the minerals, but they're not upregulating them. They're not absorbing them. So they may have low hydrochloric acid that is leading to not absorbing those minerals, and that will create the deficiency that's creating the dysregulation within the thyroid system. So there are a lot of different possibilities. So if she has the ability to work with a practitioner that has a more comprehensive, holistic approach to do a comprehensive, to look at all of these different possibilities, and then kind of drill down into where it may be coming from.
Thank you so much, Docs.
Awesome, awesome. So once again, those of you who are here with us on the call, we invite you to either unmute yourself to ask a question or slap a question into the chat, because we are here to serve you. Or if there's just a topic that you have noticed in the news that you would like for us to discuss, we love having discussions with you guys. It's fun.
Yeah, hi, Docs.
Hey.
I've been looking for ways to increase the bioavailability of curcumin, and we all know about BioPerine, but I was looking at fenugreek, but it's got one of its constituents, diosgenin, and I did some research on that, and a little bit too estrogenic for my taste. Are you familiar with that constituent of fenugreek? Diosgenin.
I am not, but what I will say is, when we talk about phytoestrogens, just
Right.
like when we talk about soy, and I'm not talking about the GMO soy, totally ditch that and throw it in the trash or that kind of stuff. But when
Right.
we're talking about actual good fermented soy that is organic, that has what we call phytoestrogens, and what you're referring to with the fenugreek, what I say, especially to our men, is that is phenomenal. The body loves that. And the reason why I encourage you to use those, even as a man, is because they will go into the estrogen receptor sites in lieu of the stronger estrogens that are in our environment.
As you can see there, the diosgenin acts as a natural precursor to estrogen. I've known about what you said, Doc, for a long time, but when I read this, I started pulling back from the fenugreek.
The body, see, what we have to recognize is that the body is brilliant. The body will only use things if it needs to, if it's in proper stability. The only time when the body for a man is going to shift into the higher realms of estrogen is when it's being pushed into that pathway, or when you have other chemicals and things in your environment that are going into those receptor sites. So that's why I say that we look at something like fenugreek, which is wholesome. And so it has a precursor, but the precursor, even if it is downregulated into the estrogen pathway, it's going to downregulate in a manner where it's going to replace or prevent the stronger estrogens from going in there. So you have stronger estrogens from your environment, whether or not you want them there, because we're in a swamp of crappiness. So what I tell people is that it's always best to get those wonderful plant estrogens to go into those sites, so that those stronger estrogens don't activate it and push it down the wrong estrogenic pathways.
Well, there are some studies that, and did I put it in this paste here, where it mentioned that it did, was implicated in some tumor growth. I'm telling you, I've done some research. I know all what you're saying about the phytoestrogens, totally understand and agree, but when more I researched this diosgenin, I was a little bit hesitant. So I don't think I put it in here. Oh, it says right there, precursor to estrogen and contributes to breast development, blah, blah, blah. There's some other information I have. Anyway, what else was I just going to say about that?
So going back to your question about the curcumin, one of the ways to help to activate it, and you probably know this, is number one, with heat, and with oils, and with black pepper.
Yeah.
When when
Yeah.
you combine the curcumin with the heat, the oils, and the black pepper, it helps to make it more bioavailable.
Yeah, I do all of those. So yeah. And maybe the dose makes the poison too, because you apparently need a 3-to-1 ratio of the fenugreek to the curcumin to make that bioavailability aspect happen. That's what, again, part of my research here. So that's a lot of diosgenin.
Well, I would say the best bioavailable form of the curcumin is the liposomal.
Yeah, that is certainly a good
That's
option,
what
I think.
That's
Yeah.
what I recommend to all my patients.
Yeah.
And
Which
that's what I
brand?
use myself.
Which brand do you like?
Numedica.
Okay. All right. Great. I have some of their other products.
But I will look
Thank you.
into the fenugreek and the flax seeds. But as I said, everything in the body is about what is activating certain pathways. Nothing is in isolation. It always has to be contextualized. So just
Absolutely.
because you have a boatload of flax in your diet does not mean that you're going to quote unquote activate the creation of tumors. That's not going to happen. The body's too brilliant for that. And people have been eating flax and all of these things long before and not having those kind of things. Just like when you look at the studies that have been done in Japan, Japan is where they eat gobs and gobs of soy. I mean, the breakfast, noon, and night is soy, but they don't have the same rates of breast cancer that we have, you know, until they start to adopt a Western diet. And then all bets are off.
Absolutely.
Well, I spent a lot of time in Japan, and I can say, you know, some of these things are apples and oranges comparisons, because yes, the Japanese eat a lot of soy, but they eat a lot of other things which may change the dynamics of it all, and their microbiota has a lot of different aspects to it. So I always say to people that comparison to us and Japanese is like apples and orange, because I've been there.
But that's exactly what I'm saying, that because the soy is within a certain cultural context where they eat a lot of different things, you know, and they eat it fermented and things of that nature. They don't have the Western diet, so they're not activating that pathway. So it's, you know, we're in a society now where we keep on vilifying nature, and we make it seem that nature is the one who's running amok, when in reality it's because we have distorted all of these other things that are in our environment that is triggering these various pathways that wouldn't be triggered if they were in another context. So it's just like your genes. You can have certain genes that aren't activated if you adhere to a certain lifestyle. But if you switch to another lifestyle, that pathway will become activated.
Oh, sure. Absolutely. Yep.
And you can always, you know, check your estrogen levels. Of course, with the blood level, you can, you know, check the estradiol, estriol, and estrone, but better to actually do a urine test so you can see the metabolites.
I was just going to say that. I had the HUMAP test, and oh my God, my estrogen levels are fine, and so are the testosterone, but the metabolites are all over the place. It's horrible.
What's your 4-hydroxy level?
Yeah, that's the one.
I mean, but how high is it?
I'll have to bring up I'll have to get the results. I've had it done twice now already. I'll get that. I'll find it.
So that is exactly bringing up that point that we were saying. It's about how the body's metabolizing these things. That's why, you know, I'm a adherent to the Dutch, which is the urine, as opposed to the blood, because you can have stuff floating in your blood and it not make any difference. But the urine will show you what you're actually using and which pathways it's going down.
Yep.
That is the key. What pathways is it going down? Not just about what the levels are, but what are the pathways that are being activated.
I'm not sure you can get metabolites out of the blood, can you?
No.
I didn't think so. No.
You can only get it through urine.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I'll see if I can find it while we're talking here.
Yeah. And then when you find out if you're pushing in certain directions, then you can eat certain foods to push it in a different direction.
Yeah, the good thing about this HUMAP,
they
there's some really good documents about how to correct the situations from a natural perspective.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you can have those precursors, and then the body decides, okay, am I going to put it down pathway A, pathway B, or pathway C, depending on what's in the environment, coming from the same precursor.
Yep.
Can you read that? Can you see it? Or
Yeah. So what I would suggest, Steve, is to speak with Dr. Lewis or Dr. Carter or myself to really go through the lab more comprehensively, because it's not just about looking at the numbers themselves. It's also about looking at what's happening in your diet, what's happening in your lifestyle that create context that encourage different pathways.
yeah. Well, I have an Ayurvedic endocrinologist out here in San Diego that I've been working with, but I'll stop with that. I'll stop there. I mean, yeah, really.
But is that a Dutch, Steve?
Is that a what?
What kind of test is that you have?
HUMAP.
That,
HUMAP.
okay, not familiar with that one.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Was it a
Doctor's
urine
data.
test?
It's a doctor's data test.
Okay. Is it a urine test?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay. All right. So
Yeah,
it's
it's really
similar.
good.
So it's similar to the Dutch test then.
Say again, please.
It's similar to the Dutch test.
It's yes, yeah. As long as the Dutch test is, it looks at all the metabolites. That's all this is really for, is the metabolites. So it's fantastic.
Yeah.
But anyway. All right. Well, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Awesome. Alrighty. Any other questions, Carla, in the chat?
Yeah, I had one for myself, but I didn't want to overstep just in case John and David might have anything.
John, David, any questions?
I guess not, right?
So David, you've had labs through med practice, no thing. What does no thing mean? Nothing to see here? Is that what you said?
I'm so sorry. I've had labs done through Dr. Carter and that practice, and I haven't I haven't done any consults or anything yet. I have no questions. Usually I tune into the other webcasts under David B. So my name is David Breen. So thank you so much for having these, and I much appreciate it. So I would be on the patient side of things. I have no questions though.
Well, that's the whole point.
Okay.
We want the questions from the patient side of things, you know?
Oh no, yeah, nothing. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna probably get an updated panel with the offer that they have going now.
Perfect.
You know, that and then probably I'll get some kind of a consult, because very, I've had chronic fatigue and fibromyalgia. I'm on unfortunately, immunoglobulin sub-Q weekly, which I've been on for a bunch of years. So I've been, medically certified and classified, was it CVID? So what I'm going to do is I'll get my, I had emailed with Jody from the other practice that I'm going to probably just get her, copies of other labs that I have, and then just get the updated lab panel through them, and then I'll do, I'll book some kind of a consult. So
Awesome.
when it's invaluable information. What a great community, and the Wednesday night was packed. I appreciate it.
No,
I got a question.
Yes.
I've taken a lot of blood tests through Health Revival Partners, and nobody's ever mentioned a urine test. And where do I go to get that? And what do I need to do? That I didn't realize about these pathways at all. This is brand new to me.
You just talking about a regular urinalysis, or
What you're talking about? You're talking about. She's talking about these different pathways
that's a
that you can
specialized.
only figure out in the urine. So
Yeah,
what?
that's a specialized from like doctor's data or Dutch test or ZRT labs. I mean, several companies offer urine metabolite tests. I also favor the Dutch test. I like that one.
So Dr. Lewis, you've seen my blood test.
No, not Dr.
urine
Lewis is
test
not
is
on.
correct?
No.
Yeah, Dr. Lewis isn't on tonight. But
He's
Or no,
going-
Dr.
Dutch
Carter.
test-
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Dutch test stands for Dried Urine Complete Test of Hormones. So usually when we do a Dutch test, it's because we're concerned that there may be some imbalance within the sex hormones or the stress hormones. And so the Dutch test will give you an understanding of what the levels are of various hormones in terms of what you are actually utilizing. So the hormones that are looked at in the Dutch test are the sex hormones like the estrogens, which are broken down into your 3 estrogens, as well as your testosterone and your pregnenolone. And then it'll look also at your stress pathways, looking at your cortisol and your cortisone levels. So that's what the Dutch test is. I mean, there are lots of different types of urine tests, but the ones that we're talking about right now today is that particular test. The Dutch test, it ranges in cost. So it depends on what type of Dutch test you're doing. For instance, there's a Dutch test for women who are cycling, where it'll map your entire cycle. So you'll take samples throughout your entire cycle. And then there's the Dutch test that is done where you're taking cycles in one day. And then there are Dutch tests where you're doing it, not only the urine, but you're also doing it in conjunction with the saliva test. And that's taking several samples in the day. So the Dutch test is not a cheap test. It can run anywhere from $300 to $400 for
Well, actually, it's
depending on what
$650.
type.
$650
Oh yeah,
for
$650 if you're doing the complete with the
Yeah.
female, mapping the whole female cycle.
Yeah.
And also
Oh,
doing,
okay.
yeah. So it ranges in price, but like I said, from $300 to $650, depending on what type of test you're doing.
Do you recommend that to everybody or just certain people?
Oh no. Oh, I only suggest it when I look at certain symptomology, and we've gone down several rabbit holes and we've tried different things, and certain things are still kind of wonky, or if the symptoms are like so outrageous, you know, like if you're dealing a lot of times with, say, infertility, or you're dealing with someone who has PCOS, or like, you know, major fibroids, or major symptomology in terms of low libido and things of that nature. Or
Oh, okay.
I do it, especially when I see people having a lot of stress issues, and I just use it to further elucidate the fact this is what your body is doing with your stress. Okay,
Absolutely.
it's making you not want to have sex. And it's not about the sex hormones, it's because you are stressing and you're sending all of your resources down that pathway. But most people don't want to believe me when I tell them that. So then when we do the Dutch test, it's like, oh, I guess it is true. You know, so if you want to get a nice hard penis, sometimes it's not about taking the testosterone, it's about dealing with the stress.
Right.
I see. Okay. You start about talking about these pathways, and you kind of took me off guard because I didn't know what pathways you were talking about.
Oh yeah, the sex pathways, and also the stress hormone pathways. So those hormones, there are different pathways that one can go down. So sometimes, you know, you have excessive production of, say, your E3 versus your E2 versus your E1. And then when it's pushing in one direction or another direction, it creates more inflammation in the body. So that's what Dr. Carter was talking about, asking Steve, you know, which direction is he going, in the OH4 or the OH2, you know, that kind of information.
Right.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, no problems. And then also with the men, your androgens, you know, what's happening with your testosterone, you know, because then we have men who are dealing with BPH, you know, benign prostate hypertrophy, you know, so that's when that kind of information tags in there too.
Yes.
All righty.
Thanks, Dr.
So you got your question, Carla?
Yeah. So when you said, doctor, I'm just going to ask, you were saying with women that go through the Dutch test, they check for the cycles. What about the women that are in menopause? How are they
Yeah, so
tested?
there's a different test.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So,
Okay.
yeah, so they wouldn't do that complete test because they would
Okay.
just be tested for one day because at that point things have kind of flatlined.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
I'm
Okay.
proud to say I am in that category. So I don't have to be complete anymore. But it
I'm
is-
there too, doctor.
But it is fascinating, especially with our young ladies. If you have young sisters or cousins or anything of that nature, if they are experiencing any kind of hormonal issues, a good thing to suggest is for them to map their cycle because it's important to get it as early as possible because a lot of times when it's not addressed, it can lead to infertility and it can lead to fibroids and all kinds of other stuff.
That's probably what happened to me, Dr. Michelle, because I have fibroids, I have cysts, I had infertility issues. Yeah.
Yeah.
A long
And
journey.
unfortunately, a lot of practitioners don't know how to look at this. They'll just look at your blood tests. They'll look to see, what are your hormones in your blood. And that's not really an indication of what your body's actually utilizing. And so that's why the Dutch test is phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, not until today. I'm learning a lot. Thank you, Dr. M and Dr. Carter. I'm learning a lot because I never heard of a Dutch test ever.
Yeah.
You learn something every day, and it's great to learn something new. So, okay, so doc, my question is, right, my son has 2 astigmatisms in his eye, right? So, and of course, his father and I, we both have those issues. So I wanted to know, is it genetic, these type of things? And what can I do besides to improve his sight? Currently, he's wearing glasses.
I'm going to throw that to Dr. Carter.
Yeah, well, astigmatism, yeah, that was a more of a challenge because that has to do with the cornea and curvature and stuff like that. So not sure how to correct that. Not even sure if it is correctable, actually.
I don't know, because I remember when I was a little girl, my eye doctor told us that I had astigmatism. And somehow, as I got older, it kind of resolved. I have no idea. Maybe
Okay.
it was wrongly diagnosed to begin with. I haven't a clue.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that one though.
Yeah, that's a possibility, right? We've been misdiagnosed a lot, right? Exactly. I know, because they were telling me to take him to a specialist, which I haven't done, but that's what I do.
Yeah, I mean, you should definitely though. Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you.
Absolutely.
I really haven't dealt with that one though.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay. Any other questions? Let's see. Okay.
I'm looking, Dr. Michelle, to see if anything else is in here. Nope, no questions.
So any other topics that are currently going on in the news that you guys would like to discuss? Everyone's so quiet today.
That's why I said, let me take a back seat because I'm like, let me let the men step up. I said, my questions. Yeah, come on, gentlemen. Once a month, let it go.
Don't be shy.
Not too much has been said about water. How do you treat your water? What kind of water do you drink? I don't like bottled water. I don't like tap water. I'm totally confused.
Great question, John.
Hey, great question. Awesome. So Dr. Carter, tell us, what do you do with your water?
I use the Clearly Filtered system. So I have a tabletop version of that and under the counter sink, 3-stage filtration system. So
is that reverse osmosis?
No, it's different. No, it's a multi-stage
Carbon-
filtration system that's
Multi-phase, you mean by
years.
charcoal?
Yeah, but it has a bunch of other stuff in there too. I can't tell you exactly what's in there, but it caught my attention a number of years ago because it was one of those companies that they showed where you could actually, let's say you had the portable version of it, and they took it to this really dirty lake and filled it up, and out came pure, clean water. So, so that was one of the things. Like that's pretty cool, you know. But they're a very well known company. A lot of practitioners like their products, and I've been using it for many years. I don't know, 15 years.
Do you believe in structured water? Do you think there's
Yeah,
such a thing
sure.
as structured water?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Now
so
that's not filtering. That's restructuring the water like coming down a mountain stream.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. That's a system I have in my house that structures the whole house. So when I
Oh, that's
take
nice.
a shower or anything, I'm always showering with structured water.
Wow.
What's the name of that company?
Yeah.
A natural action,
Hmm.
natural action technologies.
No, I haven't heard of them. That's pretty cool.
It's out of Sedona.
Okay.
That must be, if I may ask, extremely expensive to do a whole
Well,
house
it
system.
depends on how you define extremely expensive. I personally don't like standing in the shower where I'm absorbing all that chlorine and all those toxins into my skin. I'd rather restructure the water. And I think in the long run, there's not much. They run, depends on how big a house you have. They can run up to $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 if you do the whole house series. But you can do a shower. You can individualize things. Just do it under your sink, or just do it in the shower, or whatever.
That's cool though.
That's
Okay.
neat.
Exactly.
Oh, okay.
Docs, I think I put Dr. Carter, I wasn't sure, sorry to interrupt. I put Dr. Carter, let me know if that's the right thing that you have clearly filtered. I posted a link, and then I found what who was that John was talking about? Is that
Oh, the
the
Berkey
link?
filter. Mhm.
Yeah, I put natural action tech. So I didn't know if those were the two in case.
I did not know that Berkey doesn't make them anymore. Huh.
What's that?
Okay. The
Natural
Berkey filters.
There's
I mean,
well, all water has memory in it, and you have to bring the water back to its original memory. And that the same water has been circulating around in our environment for thousands, millions of years.
Yep. Yeah, that's
We
cool.
just continue. All we do is regurgitate our water all the time.
Right.
and water is a hot topic. You know, there people can get really heated in the debate regarding water. And the
Like
first
religion.
Mhm.
But do you believe water has memory in it? I mean, I'm not a doctor or anything. Do you believe water has memory in it, and you can take it back to an original memory?
Well, I think everything retains memory. You know, I don't know if there is such a concept of going back to the beginning, because everything is constantly in flux and everything is constantly flowing and recreating itself, so to speak. But
Well-
to go back to the original question regarding water filters, you know, the first thing is to get away from the plastic bottles. That's the first thing, you know,
Right.
and if nothing else, to get one of those carbon filters, you know, so you have to look at what is your budget realistically. And then at the very least, get one of those carbon filters that you can get from your Home Depot or Lowe's or something. And then if you can get more in your budget, get the multi-stage one that Dr. Carter was talking about. If you're going to do something like reverse osmosis, you have to keep in mind that you want to add minerals back to your water, you know. You
Right.
definitely don't want to do distilled water unless you're going through some kind of cleansing process and you're going to remineralize yourself afterwards, kind of thing. But there are different waters for different things. But at the very minimum, you want to use a carbon filter. You want to try and use something that will also remove the fluoride and the chlorine from the water, especially if you're drinking. if you can get sometimes those little filters that you can attach to your shower head, you know, that are relatively inexpensive. So it's better than nothing. And as with most things, there's always good, better, best, you know, and depending on where you are on the spectrum.
Well, according to Natural Action, your water is measured, absorption is measured in dynes, and the bottled water, tap water is only about 30 dimes, where once you restructure it, then it goes up to about 70 dimes, which makes it much more exorbitant and much more ready for the body to
Exactly.
absorb.
Oh,
Yeah.
very cool.
Yeah.
A cheaper
So
way to
there's-
go
so there's
about that
those
is just to
different
use
things.
Peter Kulish's bioscience, biomag science magnets, neodymium magnets, and
I got those.
they restructure the water.
I put them on either side of my water bottle
too.
because I structure my water every day, and I
Yeah.
put the magnets on each side.
Yeah, yeah.
I would wear those magnets on my body, but I'm scared of them because one of the things he said in the presentation that I heard is you put them in the wrong spot of your body. It's like going out and jumping your car the opposite way. Negative, positive, and positive.
You're
and
right there.
Yeah, there you go. But I wasn't comfortable in how to place them on my body.
Yeah, well, if you have his kit, the $100 kit, the book is quite clear about how to place them, when to place them, etc. I've had nothing but success with those magnets.
Oh, good.
I guess well, as a kid, I misjumped my car, so I was afraid I misjumped my body somehow.
So when you're talking about water, there are a lot of different issues. There's the issue of toxicity, and then there's the issue of absorption and the issue of your minerals, you know. So
Right.
keep those three things in mind when you're considering your filtration system or water structuring system or whatever it is that you're using to modify the water that's coming out of your faucet. And if you're out in the country like I am, I have well water, but unfortunately, I'm surrounded by lots of farms, which I'm sure the horrible pesticides and all that silly nonsense is going into there and entering into my wonderful water. And all I can do is I remember when I was growing up in Central America, because I grew up in Belize, and we had a well. And oh my God, to this day, I remember that water being so delicious because it was just, I mean, beautiful country, not contaminated. And then when I came to this country, it took forever for me to habituate myself to drinking water in this country because it's so horrible tasting. Carson, you know, you go to these places and the water is literally sweet. It's like, it's just, delicious. And you can feel yourself being quenched and replenished when you drink that water. So
well, I heard Dr. Carter say he uses the clearly filtered. So do I. I really like the taste of the water from
I
the
do too.
filter.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah, once you put a filter on it. So that's why I'm saying
Oh,
when I came to this country in drinking just the ordinary tap water, I couldn't drink it.
Right.
And then my father
Yeah.
went and bought a
Horrible.
filtration system, and that was what allowed me to drink my water.
And about the shower filter thing, you know, in most cities in this country now, they use chloramines. And you know what that is? That's a mixture of ammonia and chlorine. So it's even worse.
Yeah.
Chloramines. Yeah. Hey,
And your
Dr. Carter,
body
are you the one
absorbs it
that
in
told
shower.
Doris about the Supreme Fulvic? Did she find out about that?
Supreme fulvic?
Yeah, Supreme fulvic acid.
No, I mean, maybe Dr. Lewis. I like the fulvic, products from Cellcore.
Mhm.
Oh, okay.
So
I'll check that
those are
one
my
out.
favorites. Yeah.
Check that one out. Yeah. Okay,
And they have a whole system.
It's a whole line.
So
Yeah.
that's really helpful. And it takes
Yeah.
you through the stages to build up to, the ability to absorb those other elements. So someone says, Berkey still has a website, USA Berkey Filters. Maybe it's owned by another company.
No, they were shut down because the FDA classified them as a pesticide.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Berkey Filters?
Yep.
How does
Wow.
that happen?
Because they have silver in there, which is pathogenic. I mean, again, it's just another thing for the government to stick their noses in and
Make us sick, to
Yeah.
make us sick, to keep
Yeah.
us sick.
Exactly.
So the owner of the company is, of course, in a legal battle with them
Oh
now.
my God. Crap. I should have gotten a Berkey when I had now you can't get that at all.
Don't use the fluoride filter with the Berkey. 'cause
Right,
it
yeah.
emits aluminum.
Wow.
Yeah.
I tell you, you got to keep up with this stuff, otherwise.
Yeah.
So
Do
much to
yourself
keep
in.
up with, right, Steve? Yikes.
Oh, unbelievable. That's all I do in my retirement is learn this stuff, you know.
That's
I
your
can't
new
keep up.
job.
Yeah. I can't keep up.
I tell you. But that's what makes it exciting. And that's
Oh,
why
yeah.
I love when we have our community
Yes.
gatherings with Doctors RN, because I'm constantly
too.
learning from you guys, and we're constantly expanding and things are constantly changing. Dr. Carter, wouldn't you agree? That's what makes it
Oh,
exciting.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love this.
Yeah.
And it always
So-
humbles you to realize how much you don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Agreed. Doc, so quick question. Now, in certain cases, people may be, okay, so if you are drinking we know plastic isn't good. Is there like a good glass bottle brand?
Yeah, just glass
Yeah, just glass, period. Okay.
Yeah.
Mhm.
or stainless steel.
Right.
Yeah.
And to make it something that it's easy for you to clean.
Right. Yeah, because you got to
Yeah,
get
so that's-
down there. Yes.
Yeah, so
A
use
wide mouth. Yep.
your baby bottle brush. So
Yes.
I have to put those again, a baby bottle brush to be able to
Yes.
properly. But yeah, just ordinary glass bottle.
Okay.
Well, I don't know,
And
Dr. Carter, but have you noticed that sometimes that clearly filtered container will get moldy on the top? So I keep them separated, the one thing that has the filter attached to it,
Right.
and then the bottom, the big canister. I just
Yep.
keep them separated and just put one on top of the other,
Mhm.
90 degrees, and that way no mold growth.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
Huh. Yeah. So it's always important to look at all of your containers to make sure that mold is not growing. And
Yeah.
especially
Yeah.
those of us who live in Florida, where
Oof.
practically, if you stand still long enough, you will be growing mold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh
And
no.
it's so insidious, in everything. It's just, woo, tell you. Yeah.
Dr. M and Dr. Carter, I can't believe another month we have to wait. Oh no.
So what I
Thank you
want
for
to
a valuable
encourage,
evening.
I want to encourage everyone to bring your family members, bring your friends, or bring their questions,
Yes.
and also whatever you are researching or you're exploring, share it with us. Share what you're learning so that we can all learn. This is a community gathering, and every single one of you on this call is a doctor. Yes, every single one of you. We are all doctors. We are all able to learn and to grow and to teach each other. And I want you to remember that you are your own best doctor.
I
You are
agree.
the only one that can observe what's happening in your body,
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
recognize how you are responding to anything and everything. Do not allow the experts to tell you about you.
Yeah.
Okay?
There you go.
You are the expert about you.
You got the whole day to do your own analysis instead of a 20-minute office appointment somewhere. No offense, Dr. Carter.
Absolutely. This is true.
Absolutely. You're the ones that keep us straight, So
Yeah.
never allow anyone to hush you.
Right.
Always have the courage to say, well, I hear what you're saying, and I'm observing something different.
Right, absolutely.
You've got to stand up, because the more you can share with us, the more we can put the pieces of the puzzle together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you're the captain of your ship. You're the master of your fate.
Aye, aye.
Aye,
Aye, Okay,
Good.
so anything else?
No, that's all. I just, like I was just saying, Docs, I put some links in the chat from what John shared, and I guess, and Clearly Filter. So that is the right link, Dr. Carter,
Clearlyfiltered.com.
with the Clearly
Yeah.
Filter. That's right. Okay. And then with John, I put Natural Action Tech.
Dr. Carter, did
So,
you
yeah.
mention the document they have on their website about all the pollutants that they take out of the water? It's a
Yeah.
very you did mention that? I'm sorry.
Well, I mean, no, it is a very extensive list.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, for the cost,
Oh, wow.
it's a very, because I think it's like what, $90 for the tabletop version.
Something like that, yeah.
And yeah,
Yeah.
it's very affordable.
Yeah, and you know,
Wow.
those depending on your usage, that a cartridge can last 6 months, whereas
Yeah,
the zero
absolutely.
filter, I
Yeah.
think you have to change it every month or something like that. So this is
Right.
much more cost effective.
Much more cost effective.
Yeah, yeah.
Nice.
So you have the table, well, these look like pictures. And then,
Yeah, they
The
make
under-
the shower thing as well, and then they have
Yeah.
a sink.
Mhm.
I
Yeah,
think it's called a countertop, right?
yeah,
The
mhm,
one with the little container.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
and is this like a travel bottle that you can?
And they
keep
have a
with you?
travel bottle. Yep.
Mhm.
Nice. I am not familiar with this particular company. This is
Mhm.
awesome. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Well, ladies and gents, thank you once again for joining us for another session of The Doctors Are In. We look forward to being with you again next month. And remember,
Yeah.
you are your own best doctor. Until
Mhm.
next
Thank you so much.
Have a good
Take
night.
care,
Have a good night,
everybody.
Dr.
Nice
Smiles.
meeting you.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
peace and
Bye-bye.
blessings, ladies and gents. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.